Mudrarakshasam, Kautilya's master strategy unfolding Magadha Empire. A Sanskrit drama he told in English. Imagine a kingdom on the brink of chaos, a master strategist whose mind can outwit armies, and a loyal minister whose honor could topple empires. This is a story of Mudra Rakshasa, where power, loyalty, genius, and sacrifice collide. We all know that Chanakya established Mauryan dynasty. How could a single man with no armies was instrumental in destroying Nanda dynasty and establishing a stable Mauryan dynasty? Precisely, this is a story of Mudra Rakshasa, a Sanskrit classical drama written by Visakhadatta in 4th century AD. Unlike the poets of romance and mythology, he specialized in political drama, bringing the intrigue of royal courts, ministers, and strategy to life. His masterpiece Mudra Rakshasa, or the Signet of Rakshasa in English, tells the story of Chanakya, Chandragupta Maurya, and the loyal minister Rakshasa, blending history, strategy, and moral dilemmas. The play is celebrated not just for its gripping plot, but for its deep insight into human nature, loyalty, and the art of governance, making it a timeless classic in Sanskrit literature. And now, let us step back over 2000 years into the grand course of Magadha, where pride, ambition, and wisdom clash in ways that would shape the fate of an empire. Mahapadmananda was the founder of Nanda dynasty, which ruled Magadha in around 4th century BCE, just before Mauryas. The Puranas say he overthrew the Shishunaga dynasty and established his own power. The Vishnu Purana calls him Sarva Kshatriya Antaka, the destroyer of all Kshatriyas, suggesting that he exterminated old warrior houses and centralized authority in himself. After Mahapadmananda's long reign, his 8 sons succeeded him one after another. Together, the dynasty is remembered as 9 Nandas, the Navanandas. These later Nandas were known for their immense wealth and oppressive taxation, but also arrogance and cruelty, which led to popular resentment. One day, the Nandas were sitting in their splendid court, surrounded by chieftains, the subordinate kings, the ministers, and the flatterers. There entered a man who looked nothing like a courtier, his hair unkempt, his eyes fierce with intelligence, his mind sharper than a sword. He was Chanakya, the son of a humble Brahmin from Tachasila, a scholar of statecraft, law, and destiny himself. Chanakya came not seeking wealth but justice. He had heard of the Nanda's oppression, of people suffering, and taxation and tyranny. He had come to offer counsel to reform the kingdom. But the proud king, the last king of Nandas, Dhanananda, blinded by luxury, mocked him for his appearance, his matted hair, and simple robes. In the midst of the court, Chanakya was humiliated. The laughter of courtiers filled the hall. He stood still for a moment, his eyes burning like two coals. Then before all present he tore a strand of his matted hair and vowed aloud, "Until I uproot this Nanda dynasty, root, branch, and seed, this tuft shall not be tied again." The courtiers laughed again, but the destiny smiled that day, for the woe of a sage can shake kingdoms. Chanakya left the court, humiliated but not broken. He withdrew into forests, his mind seething, his will becoming iron. He studied the weaknesses of empire, the art of alliances, and the pulse of rebellion. One day, in the dusty fields of Magadha, he met a young man, Chandragupta. He was the son of Mahapadmananda with his maid servant Mura. Though he was born of royal blood, He was disowned or neglected as he was the son of a maidservant. His face was bright and regal. Chanakya saw in him the spark of leadership. He took care of him. Under Chanakya's guidance, Chandragupta was trained in the arts of war, governance, and the subtleties of power. Chanakya became his teacher, strategist, and guardian. But can people accept him as their king, who is born to a maidservant? Chanakya had a master plan for this. He realized that to gain support of the people and other rulers, Chandragupta needed an aura of divine legitimacy. Since Chandragupta's origin was humble, that he was born to a servant maid, Chanakya knew that more words would not convince people as well as powerful rulers. So he began to carefully craft wonders around the young prince. It was said that on one day, a royal elephant, a symbol of sovereignty, bowed its head before Chandragupta, as if recognizing him as a true king. On another occasion, when Chandragupta slept on the open field, a great cobra emerged and spread its hood above his head, shading him from the sun, a miracle that in Indian symbolism signified royal destiny and divine protection, just as serpents sheltered Buddha and Vishnu. Chanakya also spread tales that astrologers and sages had foretold that this young youth was born to rule all Jambudvipa. These stories were not mere superstition, they were strategic psychological tools. In the highly symbolic political culture of ancient India, divine science validated sovereignty. A king was not just powerful, he was seen as favored by fate or dharma. Chanakya understood this perfectly. So, by letting such stories circulate among soldiers, traders, and local rulers, he created a mythic aura around Chandragupta. This made him appear inevitable, chosen, and invincible king. Even if these miracles were Chanakya's inventions or political statecraft, they reveal his mastery of human psychology. He knew that kings are made not only on battlefields but also in the minds of the people. Parvataka, a Himalayan mountain king to be frank, was a powerful regional chieftain in those days. He was controlling northwestern frontiers regions of India. He was cautious about alliances. But when he heard of these signs and met Chandragupta personally, seeing his charisma and hearing Chanakya's counsel, he was convinced that this was no ordinary youth. As a gesture of alliance, Parvataka joined forces with Chandragupta in his campaigns against Nandas. He gave his daughter in marriage to Chandragupta, sealing their friendship. With this alliance, they marched upon Magadha. The armies clashed, the earth trembled, the proud Nandas, betrayed from within and attacked from without, fell like trees before the storm. Pataliputra, the jewel of the Ganges, opened her gates to new kingdom. The Mauryan Empire was born. Yet, Chanakya has not declared Chandragupta Maurya as a king of Mauryan dynasty. He waited for some more time. Once Nandas were defeated, the question of power sharing arose. Parataka had not fought as a servant, but as an ally, equal ally. He expected a division of the territory, perhaps parts of north and western India, or at least a share of sovereignty in the newly founded empire. Chanakya, however, had a singular vision: one ruler, one empire, and one law. He had worked for the unity and stability of Bharat under the sovereignty of one king, Chandragupta. To divide the kingdom even for courtesy's sake was against the ideal of Ekarajyam, the unified state. But Parvataka's claim was politically dangerous. If granted, it would fracture the empire. If refused, it could lead to rebellion. What to do in this situation? According to Jain sources, not vividly mentioned in Mudrarakshasa, but consistent with its moral atmosphere of the day, Chanakya devised a silent and bloodless way to remove the threat. In Chanakya's times, certain girls were reportedly fed minute doses of poison from infancy. They would grow immune to it, but any physical contact, even a kiss or a scratch, could prove fatal to others. Such girls are known as Vishakanyas. Such tales occur in Kautilya's Arthashastra also, which warns the king to guard against them, suggesting that the legend is not purely fanciful but rooted in ancient political techniques of assassination. Luckily, the scheme opened on its own way. Rakshasa, the minister of Nandas, was an able administrator who was adept in wily strategies. He was loyal to Nandas all these days, and now they are defeated and killed. He wanted to avenge the death of Nandas, and so, pretending that he was a good person, he presented Vishakanya to the victorious Chandragupta in the open court as a token of his supposed loyalty. Chanakya knew the wily designs of Rakshasa, and he wanted to make use of this threat into strength. He intervened and told Chandragupta to present the poisonous girl to King Parvataka. Rakshas's plan proved in vain. He never thought that his plan would prove fatal to Parvataka. Chanakya arranged that Parvataka be offered the Vishakanya as a gift or companion, a gesture of goodwill from Chandragupta's court. The unsuspecting Parvataka accepted her and soon after died mysteriously. When Parvataka died, his son Malayaketu believed that Chanakya had poisoned his father through deceit. In rage, he broke all ties with Chandragupta and joined Rakshasa, the ex-minister of Nandas, who was still loyal to the fallen dynasty. Malayaketu and Rakshasa fled to the forest and started weaving plans to dethrone Chandragupta. Together, they created a formidable alliance of 5 kings, Pancharajya, against Chandragupta Maurya. Their aim to destroy the upstart king and the wily Brahmin who had uprooted Magadha's ancient order. This forms the dramatic background of Visakhadatta's play Mudrarakshasa. By now, Chanakya had matured into master of psychological warfare. He no longer relied on armies, he relied on division, rumor, and intrigue. His objective was not to kill Malayaketu by sword or poison, but to make him collapse under his own weight of suspicion. So he devised a complex Netra Yuddha, a war of eyes and minds. Every ally of Malayaketu was made to doubt the loyalty of others, and slowly his camp began to rot from within. How did it happen? The title Mudrarakshasa itself comes from this plot. Chanakya had a number of spies who were on the prowl throughout the kingdom. Chanakya had the information from one of the spies that the family of Rakshasa was being protected by his trusted aide Chandanadasa, merchant and loyal friend of Rakshasa. The spy got a ring in front of his house, and a boy was playing in front of his house. Dutifully, he handed over the ring to Chanakya. It was none other than the royal seal of Mudra of Rakshasa. Through this device, Chanakya started forging letters among the Malayaketu's allies, each letter suggesting that the other kings were secretly bargaining with Chandragupta for their own advantage. The effect was devastating. Allies began to mistrust each other. Every commander suspected treachery. Malayaketu's army, once united by vengeance, now crumbled in confusion. Without a single battle, Chanakya achieved what armies could not. He broke the enemy's morale. Malayaketu, having lost everything, realized that his father Parvataka was dead, his allies were false, his cause had no dharma. Malaiketu confessed defeat not through capture but through psychological exhaustion. He realized that Chanakya had not only outplayed him politically but purified the kingdom of all instability. The alliance dissolved quietly, leaving Chandragupta undisputed master of Magadha. Yet, Chanakya has not declared Chandragupta as the ruler of the country. He waited for Rakshasa. Even after Nandas were gone, peace did not return easily. In a secret place outside the city lived one man whose loyalty burned brighter than vengeance. The Nanda's chief minister, Rakshasa. Learned, loyal, incorruptible, he refused to serve the conqueror. To him it was a treasure to stand beside the slayer of his masters. He lived in hiding, weaving plots to overthrow Chandragupta and restore the lost dynasty. His spies were everywhere. His heart, though pure, was close to reason. Chanakya knew the empire could not stand stable while Rakshasa remained its enemy. To destroy such a man would be easy, but to win him, that would be wisdom. So began the greatest political drama of ancient India, the war of minds between Chanakya and Rakshasa. In this war of attrition, ultimately Chanakya won. In the silent corridors of Pataliputra, spies whispered like shadows. Among them moved Jivasiddhi, a learned Buddhist monk and also a spy of Chanakya. He went to Rakshasa and started living with him. He was the keenest observer of all movements of Rakshasa. He brought news of Rakshasa's every move, his allies and his plans. Chanakya knew that brute force could not touch Rakshasa. He must be isolated, deceived, and gently led into the very heart of the empire he opposed. In the midst of this web stood one innocent man, Chandradasa, a merchant and a loyal friend of Rakshasa. Chanakya ordered the arrest of Chandradasa on the charges of giving refuge to Rakshasa's family, knowing that Rakshasa's love for him would be the final key. When Rakshasa heard that his friend would die for his sake, his heart wavered. Would he allow a good man to perish for his loyalty to fallen cause? Rakshasa entered the city. He entered the city in disguise, desperate to save Chandradasa. But every step he took was already foreseen by Chanakya, thanks to Jivasiddhi. He was caught not by force, but by compassion. When he was brought to Chanakya, expecting anger and imprisonment, he found instead calm dignity in Chanakya's face. Chanakya spoke softly. My dear minister Rakshasa, the Nandas are gone, but the people remain. The land remains. Their safety is your dharma. Why fight shadows when the kingdom still needs your service? Rakshasa, torn between loyalty to his dead masters and the duty to the living people, stood silent. Then he saw Chandanadasa brought before him unharmed. Chanakya said, O Rakshasa Mantri, the safety of this man lies in your hands. Take this baton of ministership and protect him. In that moment, Rakshasa saw the larger truth. The kingdom was greater than the king. The dharma of a minister was to preserve order, not pride. He bowed to Chandragupta and accepted the post of prime minister, the very seat Chanakya himself had held. When the coronation was over and the empire at peace, Chandragupta turned to Chanakya in gratitude. Guruji, he said, it was you who made this kingdom. It was you who made me the king. Why do you now withdraw? Chanakya smiled. My dear son, the work of a statesman is like that of a gardener. When the tree has taken root, the gardener steps aside. Chanakya tells Chandragupta, killing enemies is easy. But converting an enemy into a protector of the throne, That is the real strength. So instead of killing Rakshasa, he honors him and makes him Chandragupta's prime minister. And once Rakshasa accepts this, Malaiketu's cause loses all meaning. In other words, Malaiketu dies politically the moment Rakshasa switches sides. Chanakya handed over the seat to Rakshasa and then he retired to his hermitage. There in silence, he tied his matted hair. At last, the vow is fulfilled. His mission ends when order is restored and all political rivalries are subdued under one empire. In one of the most powerful closing sentiments of Mudrarakshasa, the curtain falls on not on triumphal shouts, but on Chanakya renouncing all his power, saying, "The fire that burns for dharma consumes even the one who lights it." He withdraws into spiritual life. His work done, leaving Chandragupta and Rakshasa to rule. This ended the greatest contest of intellects in ancient India. Not a war of swords, but a war of minds and hearts. Chanakya proved that true power lies not in cruelty but in clarity, not in distraction but in direction. Rakshasa proved that loyalty and integrity, when rightly guided, can serve even a new master without shame. And Chandragupta Maurya learned that the foundation of an empire is not on fear but on wisdom. What do we learn from this story? That is, every age, nations are saved not by passion but by vision. That the wise must sometimes renounce their own glory for the sake of stability. And that when wisdom rules over pride, dharma prevails. The mudra, the signet seal of Rakshasa, became a symbol not merely of authority but of reconciliation. And the name Chanakya endures not as a schemer but as a man who taught India that strategy without virtue is tyranny and virtue without strategy is helplessness. Empires rise and fall, but the wisdom of one man can outlast them all. The seal may pass from one hand to other hand, but the hand of wisdom leaves its imprint forever. Thank you, all of you. Good day.